Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to another episode of On the Couch with Creatives. I'm in the UK, so I say good morning, but good afternoon or good evening if you're anywhere else in the world. I'm Melanie Perry.
I'm Julie Hyde-Mew.
And this is On the Couch with Creatives. Followers of the show will know that we are part of the Creatives Network, the professional network for the creative industries. No matter where you are in the globe, no matter what your creative industry, we help connect you, develop you, and grow your creative business together. But this is On the Couch. So Julie, who do we have on the couch today?
Today we are talking to screenwriter and film director Max ALBRECHT, who specialises in horror, science fiction and fantasy. Thanks for joining us, Max.
Hello everybody. It's great to be here.
Well, thanks for joining us. So I want to ask you, why, after studying physics at university, you became a filmmaker?
Yeah, it was a bit of a logistical jump. The thing is, I had always been a bit of an all-rounder, I suppose. I was always doing creative things even before university, and even during my physics studies, I was still doing creative pursuits. But I just realized that after 4 years of studying physics, if I didn't go and fulfill a PhD position on a particular team, someone else would fill it. And I realized that the most unique thing that I could do with all my ideas and things was to go into something that combined all those creative pursuits. So filmmaking, because I can talk about visuals with the cinematographers, I can write creatively, I can work with other actors, and I can chat music with the composers.
Fantastic. And does your background in physics help you at all with your creations?
It certainly does. It certainly does. On the writing stage, it's great for grounding sci-fi. There's this interesting principle that you're allowed one get out of jail free card with writing sci-fi, and then you've got to be consistent with all the consequences of that choice. So maybe you allow faster than light travel, and then you've got to think about, well, what does that mean? So it's great from a content point of view, but I find it also really helps just on a practical day-to-day thing on set, really, because you're there thinking about, okay, well, how would the light be hitting this person here? And, what can we stylize while still keeping it believable?
And how can I drink my coffee and hold the camera?
That too, yeah. Extra arms would be nice, but yeah.
Basic physics.
Indeed.
So why do you have a fascination with science fiction and fantasy and horror?
I think this probably goes back quite a while. I was born 10 days before Halloween, which meant that I always did Halloween costume parties growing up as a kid. And so I think I just always associated monsters and scary things with fun and celebration. But then as well as that, I think I also, when I was about 5 years old, one of my mother's university friends gave me a whole crate of old Doctor Who VHSs recorded. And I think that kind of started my love not only for science fiction, but also for science. So, yeah.
I used to be terrified of Doctor Who. I did used to watch it behind the couch. The Cybermen were my thing. Like they freaked me out completely. I still can't really watch an episode with Cybermen in, even though they're a little bit less scary than they were to me. Yeah. But they still freak me out. If I see like Cybermen, I'm like, I go into a cold sweat. Can't take it.
I'm inclined to agree, yes. The first Cybermen were absolutely terrifying. The episode 2 of the Cybermen, where they're all peeling out of the cellophane, terrifying.
Yeah, horrible. horrible. Who's your favourite Doctor?
Oh, tricky one. I say tricky one, but no, actually, my favourite was always Peter Davison. To the point that when I was like 6 years old, I asked my mum to make me a little Peter Davison outfit, and I'd be running around the playground dressed as Peter Davison.
Because I was in love with Peter Davison for the longest time ever as a kid. He was like, I just absolutely adored him. But he's not my favourite Doctor. I didn't like him as Doctor Who, which was really weird. My favourite sort of older Doctor is Tom Baker with the scarf.
Of course, classic.
Completely. Yeah. He just was Doctor Who for me. And the newer Doctor Who, David Tennant.
Oh yes,
I just totally love him completely. Just I'll watch anything with him in it.
Entirely.
So yeah, But it's just so amazing how it's endured, hasn't it?
Oh, incredibly so. I mean, what they're coming up to, is it 60 years now? The 60-year anniversary or something like that? I mean, that's one heck of a legacy. Although interestingly, it's actually Paul McGann is technically the longest running Doctor because he was the Doctor during the break between the series.
Oh,
So all of the Doctor Who books were Paul McGann, well, many of them anyway.
wow.
Do you have fascinating conversations with our fellow creative member, Jeff Cockwell, who has a Doctor Who podcast?
Oh, excellent. Yes, I definitely need to get in touch then.
Yeah, he's a
Yeah,
big Doctor Who fan.
It's a lovely group you've got here as well, actually. I've had a lot of fun chatting with quite a lot of them about various things, writing and
Wow.
voice acting, and it's wonderful just talking to them all.
Yeah, we love it here.
You offer script coaching to help writers overcome writer's block and to help them complete their screenplays. Do you actually, is this a sideline? You do it on Zoom? How do you offer these coaching sessions?
So I'm still in the process of setting up the course, basically, because I realized that over the years, people, other filmmaking friends would keep coming to me and ask for feedback on their script and ask for help developing their characters, developing their narratives. What would make sense to happen? Does this ending make sense? All that kind of thing. And so I thought, well, hang on. The day job, as it were, is tutoring. Why don't I combine the two? So I'm in the process of setting up a sort of script writing coaching business. My plan is to do it quite time effectively. I'm hoping to kind of set up a course that runs for about 3 months with just weekly check-ins, and just gets people over those hurdles of writer's block that can keep them stuck for months, if not years, basically. And so I'll be offering basically meetings like this every week and ongoing email support throughout that. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Sounds really great. But I'm really intrigued. Did you were you a fan of like the Hammer horrors and things like that as a youngster?
Yes, I've been starting to make my way through all the classics, A House on Haunted Hill and Doctor Terror's House of Horrors, if I'm remembering that correctly, the Peter Cushing and the Christopher Lee. Yes, yeah, there's something really quite magical and captivating and endearing about those. And certainly, I've always been a fan of practical effects. So whenever I'm doing interesting things in my films, I always try and go in camera as much as possible. Although, because I'm a big fan of cosmic horror, it can be a little bit hard to do that in camera. So unfortunately, sometimes the effects have to be involved. But then, it just expands it, really, I think.
But how did you decide? Well, I mean, horror is one thing, and I'm a big Stephen King fan. Huge. I mean, he keeps me up at night. So some of his books I've read, tomes that I've read in about like 2 days because I can't put it down. I'm terrified. How did you incorporate like the comedy into the horror? Because you're sort of horror comedy, aren't you? So those sort of things.
Indeed. Yes, indeed. I think horror for horror's sake can wear an audience down a little. Like sometimes that's the point you're trying to make. Sometimes you are trying to kind of really instill that sense of dread. But when it's relentless, that can actually start to distance the piece from the audience a bit, I think. So you reconnect with them through moments of humor, and a lot of the most effective, the most classic horror films, they do have those elements of humor in, and those are often the bits that people remember, So they do say that horror and comedy share a similar kind of DNA, though. It's all about setup and it's all about timing. You got to get that payoff just right. And of course, a lot of films use fake outs. It looks like it's leading up to a jump scare and the jump scare doesn't arrive. And that's almost worse than the jump scare itself. So I guess I try and think about the absurdity of these situations, basically. I kind of have my characters kind of acknowledge that the situation they're in is ridiculous. Oh no, we're trapped in a closet with a vampire outside. Who'd have thought this would actually happen? Or, something along those lines. The self-referential humor is quite popular at the moment. Yeah, sorry.
No, sorry, I thought you'd completed your sentence. Another one of our creative members, is fantasy author Darren Walker, and he also uses comedy. I understand what you're talking about there.
Yeah, had a lot of fun chatting with Darren actually about his writing process. It's really quite interesting, and I'm definitely looking forward to checking out more of his work.
So tell us more about your work. You are an award-winning screenwriter and director. So tell us about the films you've been involved in and what awards they got.
Sure. So I've been making films since about 2011, 2012, and of course it was just in a kind of student amateur capacity back then. But the University Filmmaking Society have since become a production company in their own right, and just following the graduation of some of us, we started to pull together and do bigger form films together. And I'm happy to say that my first feature is very nearly complete now, many years on. But yes, as for films I've actually completed, my first independent film was called Les Hameaux des Valises. It was actually a French film. We shot it in Provence. I was visiting people over there because Dad had connections over there. And I just tried to really kind of capture the atmosphere of the place, you know, out in the countryside there. It really is like time stands still. You know, you find all these strange relics out in the kind of dry scrubland and that kind of thing. And I wrote it around that. And I believe that won a best cult film or best low budget film in a couple of festivals. But the main breakaway hit has been Jester. So Jester was in 2019. It was a horror comedy. It's Scott Pilgrim meets H.P. Lovecraft. It's about a rock guitarist in a band, and he can see this world of monsters that surrounds us all the time, but we can't see and interact with. And he can, and unfortunately that means they come after him. And so he's there trying to protect his bandmates who are oblivious, and he's trying to protect his flatmates, and with mixed success. And we created that as part of the 1K challenge run by the National Youth Film Academy. And that awarded us £1,000 of funding and gave us a deadline of 3 months to deliver the film. Wow. So it was tight. It was a tight turnaround, but we did it. And it's picked up best short horror. It's picked up best special effects and special effects makeup. It's picked up best cult, best low budget. We've been in festivals in Tokyo, Canada, America, Europe. It's done really well, surprisingly well for the budget and the time constraints. So I was very grateful for that. And it even found distribution on Prime Video, and we're hoping to expand the project into a whole series, starting with a sequel later this year.
Wow, that's fantastic! Brilliant.
And your feature film?
This one is a short. It runs at about 18 minutes, but this one is going to be more sort of towards the half-hour mark. We're looking to set up a series of roughly half-hour episodes. So yeah,
it's fascinating. I can completely sympathise with your deadline. When we were doing Scooch, our comedy Scooch, as I say, I mean that was just a 10-minute film that took 4 months in post-production.
Yeah.
And I had to cut it off because I did promise the guy, everybody that took part, that I was going to get it on the film festival circuit, and I got to that point where I had to say, right, it stops now. It's good enough. It has to go, because otherwise I'd still be playing with it and it would just never ever be ready. But sometimes you just have to walk away. You say, right, it's good enough. We're just putting it in.
100%. Yeah, no, you do have to give yourself the cutoff, because it really does become how long is a piece of string. You know, color grading in itself, you know, you can analyze this till the cows come home, and it's like, is that even blue anymore? What even is blue? It really messes with your eyes.
Yeah, you can go blind to it, can't you? I mean, I did with the sound. I did all the sound engineering on mine, and I didn't really know what I was doing. To be perfectly honest, I sort of learned it as I went, and I did almost get deaf to it, you know. And I got to the point where I'm thinking, I don't want to hear any of this ever again. If I ever hear anything to do with this film ever again, I'm going to die.
Yes, I think it'll be the same for me when I finally finish off the 2 feature projects at the moment. One of them we've been working on since 2020. The other one we've been working on since 2017. So I am looking forward to a bit of a holiday after the amount of time with them occupying headspace. Yeah.
But it's quite nice to revisit when you have walked away, because we had ours screened down in Horsham at the Horsham Film Festival, and it was actually nice to see it on the big screen after not having seen it for a year.
Yeah, it's really refreshing to see it with fresh eyes, and actually you really do see many more of the merits of your work, I think, you know, because you get numb to those. when you're just living inside a project for weeks and months on end, you start to only think about, oh, that was a tough shoot day, or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then you see it and you're like, oh, okay, this actually looks and feels like a proper film.
Yeah. I was quite pleased. I was like, actually, the sound's not that bad.
Exactly.
It sounds quite good,
You can
and it
surprise
was quite
yourself.
nice. Yeah, it was not. It was a nice experience, but but until that point, I don't think I'd even looked at it.
Yeah, you have to give yourself the time away, and it helps you be objective. It helps you take that perspective of an audience member, because of course you have to have that in mind when you're making your film projects and things. You have to think, the average person who walks into a cinema and sees your film, or hops online and sees your film, they don't know about what went into making it. They don't know about good shoot days, bad shoot days. You've got to kind of go in completely open and not too judgmental, because of course the audience will judge your work eventually. But but if you go in with that judgmental attitude, I think it can close you off to taking creative risks. Why don't you throw a slightly more stylized color grade on? Why don't you do something more interesting with the sound effects, all that kind of stuff? Yeah.
So what would your top 3 tips be for aspiring filmmakers?
Ooh, okay. So if there are any young filmmakers here in the audience, make the most of that. What I mean is that there are loads of competitions and festivals out there that have special categories for if you're under 25. And that can really give you a good in, because, people, not to say they give you a get out of jail free card, but they don't give you a free pass or anything, but people are very interested to see what young people specifically are making. So if you're under 25, make the most of all of those opportunities. Get on Film Freeway, have a look around. The other thing I would say is be careful with your cast and crew, insofar as that it can be tempting to just get all your mates together and everything. And, your mates might have some really cool ideas and all that, but, are they going to be able to kind of like be professional effectively? Because your first couple of film shoots are going to be, it's going to be a learning curve. It is going to be a little bit more picking things up as you go along. But don't just ask your mum to be sort of your producer and your editor and your sound person and everything. And that's, I suppose, would be my third tip. Try to avoid multi-rolling where you can, because it can be very tempting, I think, for filmmakers to set out and immediately want to be the screenwriter, director, producer, and editor. And I've now had to do that on a couple of things when I was starting out. And the whole jack of all trades, master of none thing. It's the whole, if you divide your attention across too many things, then actually every single thing you do, maybe the quality starts to suffer a little. So don't be afraid to work with bigger teams. Don't be afraid to delegate tasks. Don't be afraid to invite people to collaborate. And again, if you're just starting out, you explain that, you're honest about it, and I think you can really, you can achieve something much greater. Every film is greater than the sum of its parts. It's creative, for me at least. I know there are some directors who are very ironclad, it has to be exactly like this, exactly the way the words were. But for me, I like to think of it, it is a collaborative process. It's every film is this mutating, evolving life form. And it becomes all the better for having had people specializing in departments offering their opinion. So hear your costume designer out, hear your production designer out, listen to your cinematographer. Yeah. So it's all about the teamwork for me anyway.
I would completely agree with that, because you can get overwhelmed,
Completely.
Filming. I mean, we've all watched films, haven't we, where there's been dips in continuity and things have been a bit off and blah, 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 blah. And the public loves, oh, that's wrong. But if you're trying to do everything, you can't keep your eye on the ball all the time. And I mean, Julie, she did proof a lot of what I was doing with the sound. But again, it got to the point where it was kind of like, I've got to stop now, because I can't carry on with it anymore, because I just can't. I don't want to go. I just don't want to do it anymore.
But even with editing, never mind that you need to get certain people who, for certain tasks. Also, when you're editing, it's good to have an extra pair of eyes, an extra pair, more eyes, 3, 4, 5 pairs of eyes. And
Yes, yeah.
just to pick up the mistakes, the frames that that you've left in by mistake,
Yes.
the spelling mistakes, just really in the post production side of things, you need more eyes than your own.
Oh, God.
I agree entirely, 100%. Yeah, and it stops you from disappearing inside your own head. And post production can take the longest time. So having other people to kind of hold each other accountable really helps speed that along. And the reason why the features are coming along as quickly as they are now is because I finally stopped trying to do it all myself. I finally opened it up to a bigger team, and it's great. Things are really kind of zooming along now, and I just think, why didn't I do this years ago?
It's hard to let go sometimes, isn't it? When you've got a passion project, it's your baby, and you think you know best and blah blah blah. But actually, if you can say let go of certain things, it is better, because no one person can do it all.
Yeah, exactly. And I think also maybe when you're starting out, you do get a little bit self-conscious and a little bit shy about your work. You're a little bit shy to go to someone with post-production sound if you realize that, maybe the sound on set wasn't great and that kind of thing. So it can be a bit nerve-wracking to open it up, because at the end of the day, you're creating something. It is personal. Every film, if you've done it right, it is something personal. If you've written it yourself, you're talking about something that maybe it makes you feel a little uncomfortable talking about, and you've got to kind of come to terms with that, I suppose. But that's what's going to make it a better film. That's going to help it connect with an audience, because if you're feeling that vulnerability and maybe that sense of hurt, then actually maybe the audience is too. And, bringing around kind of full circle, I suppose, something that came to my mind when I made the move from science to art was, you can spread a good idea around the world a lot quicker with a good film than with a single scientific paper, unfortunately. I use Lord of the Rings as an example, but I think Lord of the Rings has been such a huge part of everybody's lives. Well, lots of people's lives. For many people, it was their introduction as children to the idea of good versus evil and noble sacrifices and all that kind of thing. And yet, Middle-earth doesn't exist, the orcs don't exist, the elves don't exist, and yet what it says is still true and relevant for human beings. And, I like the idea that, again, you can spread an idea around the world very quickly with a good film that people talk about. So that's my thoughts on it anyway.
Yeah.
Well, let's dredge some more thoughts out of that clever head of yours. Time for the values jam. Let's find out all about you.
Oh, heavens. Go on then.
So the on the couch part of the on the couch.
Okay. So what's your first question, sorry?
I don't know yet. I'm going to shuffle my cards, Matt.
Of course, it's the card section.
It's my cards. They're lovely cards. They're so soft. I could write a film about my cards, actually.
Certainly could do.
One woman and her obsession with
with a pack of cards.
Her unhealthy obsession with the values check.
I can see that would already make quite an entertaining short. So
right, okay.
Expand it out, develop some ideas. I think David Lynch says you only need 70 good ideas to make a feature film or something.
Oh, there you go. Right, okay. Now, hopefully, the last couple of times I've done this, my camera's played up right. So
okay.
I am going to, I'm going to drop them in a minute. Run my finger along the card. You yell stop, and we'll pick the card that you say stop on.
And stop. Going to go quite near the end.
Okay. Okay. Right. We have got. You picked openness.
Openness. Oh, right. Oh, well, that follows on nicely from what we were talking about.
It does. Right. And obviously, as we are creatives, we are going to ask you creatively about openness. So, Max, what does openness mean to you? What does it look, feel, and sound like?
I think it means putting yourself out there as you are, warts and all. I think it feels like a cold shower Feels like stepping into a cold shower after maybe a heavy night when you got all caught up in things, and it's the harsh light of day. Stepping out. Okay, this is where I am, and this is what I need to do today. Have that sense of purpose. Yeah,
I like that. What does it sound like?
Sounds like just a single voice. It sounds like just a single voice. No frills, no bells, no whistles, anything like that. Just a solitary human voice. Just saying that this is me.
Oh, okay. Like it.
Cutting it right back.
Well, before we do sign off, I do want to play your trailer that you sent me. So can you just talk us through a little bit about that, and then we'll play it out before we end up show?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so this trailer will be for the Bronze Abstraction. So the Bronze Abstraction is actually my second feature. I haven't finished the first one yet, but that we ended up running this one in parallel because, you know, things seemed to just like line up perfectly for it. So it seemed too good an opportunity to pass up on. So the Bronze Abstraction is about a struggling artist who is preparing to sort of leave the city life that she was attempting, and her uncle tasks her with identifying the maker of this particular sculpture in his collection. Very unusual sculpture. However, the more she goes digging into it, the more she finds it's got a bit of a history, and weird things start to happen around it. And I don't want to give too much away. So this was an early work in progress trailer from just footage from the first couple of shoots. And this was back when we were really hoping to release it in 2021. Unfortunately, we've had a few health issues and a few scheduling issues, and post-production takes time. So it's hopefully coming out later this year now. So coming soon, 2023, not 2021.
Well, but, it sounds exciting, and let's just take a look.
Uncle Alex, is that you?
Who am I speaking to?
Wanda Sharp, his niece.
Miss Sharp, I'm deeply sorry, but I have some bad news.
I don't want to go back home, Uncle Alex. If I go back home, it will be real that I lost. I didn't make it out here like I said I would.
It is difficult starting a business, especially in the arts.
This is a lot of stuff to move, Uncle Alex.
Well, if you're not in a rush to go home, I'm going to sell most of it. I have no doubt this is worth hundreds. But if we can find out who the artist is, 50-50 split if you're up for the task.
Deal.
Wanda, I didn't realise you're still around town.
What are you up to these days, Bill?
Corporate graphic design isn't anywhere near as interesting as your stuff, but...
Put me on the case, and I will find out what this piece is.
There's something really unnatural around.
Were you listening to us just now?
Call me Peabody.
The people in the street, they say there's a person who lives in the park.
Do you think he's dangerous?
He literally bumps straight into me, and that's the best you can do. Most people don't even speak to me. And when I speak, they don't even hear me. But you're a nice one.
Starting the company was my idea. And then it just fell apart.
So what is it?
Something like I've never seen before.
We've all got to go at some point. Everything living is supposed to end. Remember, you are what you consume.
So that was the trailer for the Bronze Abstraction. And it looks very fascinating, and I can't wait to see the full thing, Max.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited too, and those visual effects are coming along a treat. That was the base stuff there. Just wait till we're done.
Oh, fantastic. Well, Max, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the couch with us today. It's been an absolute delight talking to you, and I know that we'll have you back on the couch again when your other movies get made. We do have Max's contact details going across the screen as well, so if you are interested in contacting him for copywriting help, ideas help, booking on his course, give him a follow, find out what he's doing, and find out how he can help you develop your screen and script ideas.
I'd love to help out. At the end of the day, I like telling good stories, and I like helping people feel like they're expressing themselves, especially if they're just taking the first steps into it, because I know from experience it can be scary. So
yeah,
but then it's a good thing to like scary things. Anyway.
Oh, brilliant.
Story of your life.
Indeed. All terror.
All terror. Well, thank you for
so
horrifying us a little bit today. It's been wonderful talking to you.
No, it's been an absolute pleasure. I really, really appreciate it. It's really nice to talk about it. Get so busy doing things that you get to talk about them every now and then.
Yeah. No,
so I really appreciate it. Thank you.
It's lovely. Thanks so much. And thanks to our viewers for joining us as well. But until next time, we'll see you.